Welcome to Rad Chat. I'm your host, Brandilynn, and today I have a super special guest because I have been following her on Instagram for so long. She's like an inspiration to me and what I do. So we have Beezy, who is an inked model and an influencer. Thank you so much for coming on Zoom for me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. I literally just had an ear surgery, so don't mind my like weird hairdo and like if I touch my ear, don't mind me.
That is okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. We're both in California. I don't know how it is by you, but it's like pouring rain right now by me.
Yeah, it was raining all night and all morning, but it's getting sunny right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks a little more sunnier. It's not like we're like not too close because I'm in LA and you're more southern,
Oh yeah.
but it's funny how like just so weird with the weather in California.
Yeah, definitely. Are you close to the ocean?
I'm not that close because I'm more like the valley, like kind of like I'm more closer to downtown LA than the beach, but Santa Monica is not that far. If I really
Mm-hmm.
Santa Monica. Are you close to the beach?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like 9 miles away.
Oh, that's awesome. That's not bad.
Yeah.
Have you always lived in California your whole life?
No, I've been here for 7 years this summer, but I'm actually from Wisconsin.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. I don't know anyone from Wisconsin. Wow, let's kind of start
Yeah.
here. How is was life in Wisconsin? What brought you to California? That's so interesting.
Yeah, I grew up my whole life in a super small town. I went to like a little Catholic school until that's like kind of where I got bullied and then switched to a more public school. And that was better. I went to college in Chicago for culinary, baking and pastry. And then after I graduated, left Wisconsin. Came to
Nice.
California. I was here for like 6 months, went back to Wisconsin, and I was there for about 2 years. And then I met my husband and we got married. And 2 weeks later,
Oh,
we moved back out here.
oh my God. What a good little love story. Sprinkle. Love it. I have so
Yeah.
many questions. Oh my God. Okay, so one, I should mention, we did talk a little off camera. We both have experienced bullying, so thank you for one
Mhm.
up because I feel like at like a young age like that, like middle school, high school, people don't realize the like effect. I mean, and also too on women of bullying and what it really does to you. And I can only imagine on a Catholic school being even more to the level because, like, I mean, here we are with all our tattoos, and obviously you can't see them right now, but it's very taboo. I feel like in Catholic people as well. So, did you feel like
Yes.
in Catholic school you maybe didn't belong, like they weren't kind of your people, or like how did it work out for you?
So I was actually really small. It was before I had like tattoos or anything. It was like I was first through third grade is when I went to Catholic school, and I was probably like the only ginger, and I
Oh,
was always like the little fat kid. So I probably would have never said anything, to be honest with you. I would go to school and I would get teased all day long by the same one or two people. And the lunch lady was really good friends with my grandma. It's like this super
aw.
small town, so it's like they went to church and like sang in choir together. And
Oh, that's
the lunch lady, after like a couple months, told my grandma that I stopped eating at lunch, and I
sweet.
never said anything to my parents. So then my grandma told my parents. My parents asked me what was going on, so I finally told them. And I'm sure there's like two sides to every story, but my dad said he went to school and he talked to them and he was like, hey, this is what's happening. And the person that was picking on me, his family like donated a lot of money to the church. So they didn't want to say anything to him. They like didn't want to like reprimand him at all. And my dad was like, that's not gonna happen. So they finally like talked to him, and it was really weird, but they just switched me to a new school.
Yeah, that's really, I mean, it sucks you had to go through that, especially at such a young age, but it's really amazing that your parents were supportive of you and they're like, nope, let's just take her out of this school, put her in a new school. That's really cool because not a lot of parents are like that. Like my parents were very kind of absent-minded, like they probably wouldn't even like think to do anything like that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, my parents, they one thing they were really great with is they always let me be myself. I had like the weirdest style. My mom would like, she would be all about it. I'd wear jeans and skirts over the top of my jeans and like bright tennis shoes. Like I don't even know what I was doing, but they were about it.
Well, that's cool. They really let you express yourself. And isn't it funny when you look back at like old photos of like, what was I wearing? But like at the time, you think you're so cool and cute, and it's just such a funny thing looking back on.
Yes, yes,
So
definitely.
in your new, when you went to the new school, did you also get bullied there, or it was a better experience for you?
I did get bullied, but it was like more so what you'd expect, like from being in grade school or high school, like just being bullied because I was like the weird kid. Like I didn't fit in, but it wasn't like being taunted every single day like it was at my first school. So like it didn't bother me, or it
Okay.
didn't feel like it bothered me, but like it did.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy? Because I feel like the same. Like, I was like the weird girl in school, and you feel like in the moment you're like in your own world, so like it doesn't bother you. But then slowly as you grow up, you're like, wait, this like really affected me.
Yes, definitely.
And then also, because you did bring it up, do you feel like being redheaded was a big factor people like picked on you for? Was there not a lot of redheads where you grew up?
Yeah, to be completely honest with you, like no one ever like called me a ginger. I didn't even know what it meant to be like a ginger until I was out of high school. I think I probably only knew like two or three redheads in my entire life growing up, and I didn't even really realize it was a thing, except for in movies, like you always would see like the redhead, but that would be like the bully, like the mean kid was always like this goofy like redhead.
Yeah. It's so interesting what people pick on people for, like just the color of their hair. But and then it's crazy too because now like I think if you had a different color hair, like you wouldn't be you. Like I can't imagine you not a redhead. So it's like so beautiful of a hair color. Like why do people pick on people for that? But it
Yes.
probably started in one stupid movie where they made the bully a redhead and it just transcends. Isn't that I just I mean I have brunette hair so I feel like I obviously can't relate to like the hair color thing, but do you feel like that was just such a weird thing and like nowadays you're like what the hell?
Yeah, I think being in such a small town, like kids always will pick on things that they don't see often. So like everyone is this, I mean, like really everyone looks the same. So as soon as there's somebody that's not like that, that's all you need.
Yeah. As you grew older, did that really empower you like that you were different and that you had different color hair and you did your own thing and you dressed your own way?
No. It actually took me until very recently before I was like, well, this is me and I like that. I'm different. I don't want to be like everybody else, but not ever. It took me a really, really long time.
Oh wow, that's it's so interesting the different paths people go on because I mean I can only of course relate to myself, but I feel like I was very misfit. But for some reason, like I was just like, this is me, like I can't change me. But like I maybe not had a lot of friends and was picked on, but I feel like as I got older, I started to little by little kind of be like, okay, like this is me, I'm okay with this. Even though I did have like moments where I hated myself and it's like, why am I different? Why don't I belong? But you're right, I think as you mature, it just becomes more like you own it as you get more mature. But
Yes.
and it's awesome that you're open about that too. Like, no, I really struggle.
Yes, I did. I had a really hard time finding myself. I never really had like a big group of friends. I would have like one or two friends that like I was pretty close with until like something would happen and then I'd like kind of just be a little bit of a loner again. But I think that being picked on initially and then kind of learning to keep things like to myself, like that's just how I've always been. Like I'd rather just hold stuff in before I would like say anything.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I had a really bad eating disorder and I was like obsessed about losing weight. That's all that I really cared about. Like I didn't even think about just accepting myself how I was. Like I always wanted to lose weight. Like I felt like that was like a huge problem of mine is that like I wasn't as skinny as everybody else. So at a certain point I had lost so much weight, but to me, I didn't think that I did.
Yeah.
And my mom got like really worried about me and kind of like confronted me one day. So she ended up having me go to like an outpatient rehab facility. So like a few days a week after school, they would drive me so far away to go to this like facility, and I would like spend the whole evening there and just like talk to a bunch of people that had a bunch of issues. Like it wasn't just like eating disorders, it was all types of mental illnesses in this like little group of people, and we would just talk to each other, and it was a lot.
Yeah,
It
I
was a
mean,
lot.
at a young age too, to like be exposed to all these other people. Do you feel like
Yes.
maybe now looking back, it was a good thing, obviously, maybe that you went to this and got exposed to like you're not alone. But in the moment, like you said, it's a lot to handle. So how did you process that? How did you go through that? Was it just super scary and you just were like pretending that maybe you were fine still?
100%. I was like the whole entire time, I was like, so what do I need to do or say to make everyone feel like I don't need to come back anymore? But at the same time, it was helpful only because like I needed some type of like wake up call to realize like I needed to do something different. I don't necessarily think that it needed to be to this extent, but like I needed something to happen in order to like stop the path that I was on. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened, but something needed to happen. Maybe not that. It was really a lot on my little brain, like talking to so many people that had so many things going on in their life, like was just, it almost made everything feel heavier, I guess, to me. But ultimately it ended up being a good thing.
Yeah, I mean that totally does seem like heavy to carry too. Maybe we're like soul sisters and got literally just virtually met, but like our lives really connect because I also had an eating disorder. But the only thing is nobody knew I had an eating disorder. I was bulimic, so not that. And it's so crazy because when you're younger, like, I'm gonna eat and then just throw up all my food and then I'll be skinny. But honestly, it makes you fatter because you're like binging so much that it was just counterintuitive. But I remember, like, I was like, no one will know. It was my own thing. Cause, like, I also had a lot of, like, body dysmorphia, like, in my head. Like, maybe I probably wasn't really fat, like, looking back, but you think you're fat or you think you have to be skinnier, and then it's like that control, like I can control my weight, I can't control what people say about me. But then I just was like, I would, do it behind closed doors, or I would do it, and sometimes it got to a point where I would do it at work and I'd be like, I have to go to the bathroom real quick, and then it just like progressed and progressed. And there was only like one person who knew. I had like three jobs at the time, and this was like pretty bad my senior year of high school. And my one boss knew, and he would always try to like nicely talk to me and be like, I'm here for you, but not push me to like. I can only imagine like what would happen if I was pushed into an outpatient kind of center like that. Like super scary because then you're confronting it, like in when we're doing it, it's like our own thing and it's secretive, and it's like you have a little bit of shame, I'm sure. Like it's not like you want to do it but you feel like you have to because you have control over it. So I can't imagine like being exposed then to like all of these other things. So how do you feel like you got out of the like heaviness of it? How did you process it once you were kind of like, oh wow, like this is like so serious?
um Honestly, I don't know. I have no idea. I feel like our brains are like so much more powerful than like we think that they are. So I don't know if I like, to be honest, initially, I don't think that I thought that I had a problem. Like
Okay.
that maybe is the thing. Like I wasn't like, I know that I'm doing this. I was like, I'm not doing anything. Like I'm
Yeah.
not doing anything wrong, but like I would not eat. I would not eat anything ever. Like I would just wouldn't eat, and then I'd go to the gym every single day after high school, and like my hair was falling out, like I was not healthy. But to me, like I didn't see anything, which is why my mom at some point was like,
Something's wrong.
something's happening here. And I think that, I guess maybe going is what woke me up, that maybe like okay, there's people that are worried, even though it doesn't really seem like I'm doing anything wrong to me, like something is wrong, otherwise I would not be in this situation. And I think that kind of maybe just like woke me up a little bit to like what was happening. But I'm also, if I'm really happy, I have a tendency to not have issues. And then as soon as I start to like go down a little bit is when like I will have issues. So I'm sure once I got out, it was also like close to my senior year in high school, and I was like thinking about going to culinary school and like just like kind of moving on with life. So I think maybe I was in like a little bit of a better headspace, and it was
Mhm.
easier for me to just kind of move on in a better direction.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I mean, I think that's with everybody. When you're happy, you're not thinking about all your flaws and your issues and what people say about you, but it's those moments when you're like so unhappy that you dwell on it and you don't even want to recognize that there's an issue, but you know deep down that's something, this is not normal behavior. Like I shouldn't not want to eat food, or I shouldn't want to have to throw up food in my case. So I think that definitely makes sense, especially because you're at that point. Because I feel like I went through this too, like senior year. You're like, you see that there's some potential to get away. Like, I can, like,
Yeah.
life is really starting for you. So there was probably that unconscious, like, life will change maybe as well.
Yes, definitely.
And that, and also too, like, and like, prayers to you for the strength to talk to about your story. Because I don't know if you feel this, but for me, even though I'm not current, like, I don't, like, I've healed from my bulimia and I don't binge, but you're always still like a ED survivor of it. You always technically, could have an ED, like, it always can come back, right? It's the fear, like, we're stronger now, so hopefully we'll never come back. But do you think of yourself as that, like you're still like always going to be like that's still in you, still like I've overcome that and I'm strong now and I'm healed, but I could look back and like now appreciate where I'm at now, where I come from?
Yes, definitely. And I do feel like the reason that I try to share is because if anyone else is like dealing with something like that, like I just didn't have anybody that I could talk to. Like I felt completely shut off. So I feel like that's why I'm always so open with trying to share some of like the hardships that I've been through, because if someone is going through that like currently, like they can know that at some point like things will get better, and like they have to take a step to like change something to make it better. But at the same time, I feel like there's like addictive personalities, and I like to have like that feeling of control, and I like to, I mean, like instead of doing it in a negative way, do it in a positive way. So I'll still go running every day, but it's not like I do it to this crazy excess, and I still have like a clean eating habits, and like I eat like a pretty like vegan diet. So like I still get to have like these little pockets of control where I'm able to do things like a specific way, but it's not in a negative way. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that is really important, and I'm so happy you said that because it's like the eating disorder part, like it takes control of the person. But it's like when you can get your control back from the eating disorder, and like you said, like I eat how I want to eat because this is how I want to eat, and it's just I feel better eating a vegan, mostly like you said, vegan diet, and I can work out because it makes me feel good, and it's not like I'm killing myself. I think that's really important because it does show that you like took your control back, and that's exactly how I feel too. Like I don't feel guilty now when I eat ice cream when I used to like eat ice cream and throw up. So it's like that is super important to say. I think that's when you can really say you've healed from it, when you got your control.
Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. So thank you for sharing that. That's so awesome. I think so many, and especially to like little girls or even men or whoever, whatever you classify yourself as, like people go through these things so young, and you're right, like they don't have anyone to talk to, and it's such a stigma still, like, oh, like that person's weird, they do this, or like it's in our heads to not want to share that because it's so personal, but I think it's great to like share that. Like you can overcome it and it's possible and you're not alone.
Yes. Yes, most
Awesome.
definitely.
So then you did mention that you were, your senior year, you're going to start getting to culinary school and then you go to college for culinary. That's super amazing. How did you know you had a knack for that or you wanted to do that? And bring us through the process of you going to school for that.
Yeah, when I was really young, my grandma, she'd always like bake stuff for Christmas. So she taught me how to bake. We would make cookies and cakes and stuff. So like I've just always loved baking. Always. It's been like in my genes. So I decided to go to culinary school. I moved to Chicago and I graduated from high school. 2 weeks later, started college. I didn't take like a summer or anything. Like I just went right to school. So I finished like my 2 year program in 18 months, just going like straight through it. I went to Kendall College and I did their baking program, and it was awesome. It was really intense. The chefs are like a lot. Like
I can
they're
imagine.
it was crazy. Like people would come out of like their tests like crying.
Oh,
It was crazy, but ultimately they have to like be like that to get you ready for the real world, because like if you're working in a kitchen, like it's intense. So I did that for 2 years, graduated, and then I started working in a bakery, and I've worked in a couple kitchens, I've worked in a couple bakeries, and then once I was in San Diego, I worked pretty much just doing cakes. I did cakes for the past 6.5 years.
oh, that's awesome. Oh my God, that's like so exciting because I feel like I like to bake, but I'm not like a pro or anything, and I'm always, like wishing I could be better. Like, why can't I just do the measure? Like, I feel like you watch Top Chef and they just do these things and don't measure anything, or all the baking shows on Food Network, and you're like, wow, like how crazy. So that's so awesome of a skill. Like, you're like legit professional. Like, that's so cool. How
Yes.
Yeah, how was your experience in Chicago? Did you like Chicago? How long were you like you obviously moved back kind of back to California then back to West. You kind of moved a lot, but did you enjoy your experience in Chicago? Was there like memorable mentors you had in different kitchens and bakeries?
So in Chicago, it was okay. My classes would be a lot. So like I'd go to school and I would be there like all the time. There was one night like me and a friend of mine were studying for a test, and we just like ended up sleeping like in the lobby because like we were studying all night like for this culinary test. But it was okay. I don't necessarily feel like I got to experience too much of what Chicago had to offer because I was always so busy. And
Studying.
then in the summer, it's like ungodly hot. In the
Oh,
winter, I mean, like I didn't have a car there. I would just take public transportation. And like I vividly remember wearing my culinary outfit, running to the bus at like 4 in the morning to get
oh
to
my God.
class, and just like eating it. Like I slipped right in the ice,
Oh,
fell down in the snow, got right back up, and just started running to the bus.
it's always the black ice too, because I'm originally from the East Coast, so girl, the snow and the ice, that's why I moved to California. It's
100%.
so bad. Yeah, that's not a memorable experience. But it is cool that you got to like have an introduction to like a big city that does experience some weather change, especially now living in California. You're like, I did my snow time.
I surely did my snow time.
Did you have any like memorable teachers or mentors that kind of like helped you on your path to what ultimately you wanted to do and work on in bakeries and with cakes and etc.?
I feel like I had a couple of chefs in school that were pretty memorable. My cake teacher's name was Chef Webb, and I liked her a lot. She was very helpful, and I knew I wanted to do cakes, so those were probably my favorite classes. Um, I did enjoy doing plated desserts. It's really similar, but ultimately, culinary is kind of hard because I could learn so much in my classes that you really just have to like be in a kitchen and experiencing things before you can like really like hone in on certain like skills that you have and like grow them.
Yeah, more like actual on-site experience.
Yes, definitely.
For people who maybe aren't too familiar, what does that mean, like plated desserts and like the specifics to it? And also give us kind of like more specifics of actually making cakes. And because I'm sure it's obviously we all, like, I'm sure everyone at home knows like a box cake, like, mix it up, put it in a pan. But as a culinary student, and I'm sure there's way more, and especially now that you're a professional at it, that maybe people don't know.
Yeah, so plated desserts, that would be like working at a restaurant or like a hotel or something. So when I would work at a restaurant, I worked on a line and I would do pastry and pantry work. So I would do like the plated salads or like little things that I would help like with the savory line. And then I would do all of the pastry prep for breakfast and lunch service. And then I would do all the pastry prep for dinner service. I would do like homemade ice cream bases and I would like spin ice creams, but I would also make all the bread fresh every day for like all of the services and just like all the different components for all the different desserts. It's so much because if you think about like a menu, there's like maybe 4 or 5 different desserts, and then it's not just like, oh, you toss this on a plate. Like I would end up like decorating the plates, and then there's like all these different components. So it would just be mostly prepping everything every single day. And then working on the line is intense. Like on a busy day, like tickets are just flying in. And then like plating up the desserts and everything and making everything like go as smoothly as possible. But that was, yeah, that was a lot. I did that for about 2 years. And then I decided that the restaurant life was not necessarily for me because I wanted to hone in on cakes. So once I moved here, it probably took me a couple of years working at my first bakery out here before I feel like my cakes were like getting pretty good.
Okay.
And then I
Baking the
did
cakes.
another like 3.5 years at the most recent bakery I worked at. And it was really cool because this girl had rented kitchen space from her. So every once in a while she would come in and she does amazing cakes. Like
Oh, that's
she's been in
awesome.
so many magazines, like done so much stuff. So like even just getting to work on like what I needed to work on, but being able to like kind of like observe her do like these insane cakes
That's
was
awesome.
really helpful. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool because that's like not everyone's experience, right? Like, how lucky is that? Like, to really learn from someone that's like you said, like in magazines and doing like really big things. That's
Yes.
really cool. I think that it's also interesting because, like you said, like you decorate you're prepping everything and you're decorating the plates and there's a science to it, right? You have to make sure all the right measurements are correct. Do you think that helped you kind of like people that wanted to like like the control factor we were just talking about, do you think that really helped you like okay, like I'm controlling the situation, this is all me, like I have my handle in everything? Do you think that really helped you as you grew into your career?
Yeah, that's like very much so me, like what I need to get through every day. I'll make a list every single day of like all the things that I need to do because for me to like be successful, I already know like that I need to like do things in such a specific way. I'm just like naturally an OCD type of person. Like I feel like there's a place for everything and it always has to be in that place.
Yeah, yeah. And then it's like if it's not, it like bothers you, right? Like I'm like, wait. And then I'm also like a list maker. Like, okay, let's see like what's the rundown of the week and what's the rundown of today.
Yes.
That's awesome. So I'm sure that just natural career path was just very empowering just as that fact as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And then also, do you think that maybe you took more to cakes and baking over the cooking and being on the line because kind of like what you said, you really liked to like self-express yourself, like you were dressing a certain way how you wanted to, and baking you have way more, I think, creative abilities in just assumption. Do you think that also like maybe is what made you more prone to baking?
Yes, I think that it really depends like where you work because I'm sure there are some restaurants in other places that you're allowed like the time to do things like a more creative way. But the bakery that I ended up in, there were weeks where we were so swamped, but I was definitely able to like take more time and make things like perfect.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And then, so obviously we know like that's your career path. And then on Instagram, we know you as this like inked model. Like, how did you get into doing that? What, inspired you to do that? What makes you want to do that? Kind of tell us that path.
Yeah, so it was actually kind of crazy because I haven't been at the bakery for like a year and a half because at a certain point, like after I was working in the same bakery where I had like the time to like hone in on my skills and do things like as best as I could, after being there for so long, I kind of got to this weird like roadblock where nothing seemed super new and exciting anymore. Like I had been able to have so much time to do so many things. And like there's always like different trends that would like start happening and that would be like exciting to kind of like work on different things. But I just felt like I got to this point where I was like feeling a little bit lost. Like I had almost like gotten to this place where you can't really make much more money,
Mm,
there's not much more for me to learn. I've like experienced so much that I was ready to make a change. So it was like probably about 6 months before COVID had happened. I quit my job at the bakery and I started working for a clothing company and I'd help with photography, I would do videography, video editing, social media management, all these types of things I would like package and
that's
ship
awesome.
different things. So that was like my foot in the door to this big transition that I was like so ready to make, like to just jump
Yeah.
into something new. And all at the same time, I was building my own Instagram. So that was all kind of simultaneous. And then COVID happened and I got laid off. So I was able to take a lot more time to like invest in like some new gear and work on my photo editing and video editing. So that is definitely what my focus is. So I think part of what made my page grow so much was that you could see some growth like in my page.
Yeah. That's like a crazy like whirlwind right there. Like COVID just fucking sucks. Like we're slowly like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but for so many people, I mean everyone got affected in some way, either being sick, losing someone, their jobs, etc. Like mental health was on a rise again. So that is just so crazy. Like you're so excited to go to this new chapter in life, and then you're like, wait, the fucking
Bam.
dude, like
Yep.
that is such terrible timing. Like that like hurts my heart. Like, oh my God. Like, do you
Yeah.
like in retrospect, obviously that was probably so stressful and so shitty for you because you're like kind of you like you said you plateaued from baking. It's like you really where else can you go? You're like, okay, I'm excited, like there's a new transition in life, and then COVID happened. And obviously, you seem to be doing great now currently, but in that moment of the transition, how were you feeling? How did you handle that? How did you keep yourself so positive? Because in my opinion, you are so positive and I love that about you. You're so genuinely positive and I feel like I go to your Instagram to be like, what is she gonna tell me today? Because like she's gonna inspire me to like feel good today. Like, how did you handle such a terrible transitional time in your life?
It was really difficult because I don't like change. So even just to leave the bakery was a big deal. Like I was like it took me a really long time to do it and I was like no, this is the time and I was like just gonna take a leap of faith and hope that it like worked out and it sure didn't. But
No.
it I mean, I like always try to feel like things happen for a reason. And I do tend to get really depressed and down, which is when I usually turn to my Instagram and be like, this is what I need to hear. This is what I need to like feel better or like to remind myself to be positive or kind of think like can't not help somebody today. Like I need to be positive. So I feel like that actually helped me a lot in keeping myself from like falling like into complete darkness, like just knowing that that this is like the path that I'm trying to choose is to be positive and like to keep
Yeah.
looking ahead, knowing that also a lot of people were struggling with the same thing. I think that when we're going through things alone, it kind of makes things a lot more difficult. But there was like such a huge outpour of people all struggling. So I just kept trying to remind myself that like this is not just me. Like there are so many people going through the same thing right now.
Yeah, and that's so incredible too that you thought in that way. Like, you didn't let your depression succumb to like, poor me. You really like took what you like you said, you needed to hear some things and you put it to this broader audience. And oh my God, that's like so selfless and like, so nice. Because you're right, like you don't know how many other people are like also went through what you did or something similar or maybe even something worse, and I kind of love that too because I'm always trying to spread this like magic in life, and I think that's so also like what you're doing. It's like your own magic in life, and it's really awesome to like take such a negative and be like, wait, like I can put it to my audience or my followers. And that's really cool too that your followers also had an impact on you, like they kind of helped you kind of overcome your depression.
Yes, definitely. And I almost feel like anybody that's out there trying to spread some type of like positive message 100% has to have gone through like something horrible themselves. Like, because it seems so crazy to think that if you haven't seen the other, like the darker side, like you really can't see the completely like other side of things. So
Mhm.
I feel like,
Yes.
yeah,
That is so true because I find that like people who went through some shit are like the best types of people because they understand what the shit feels like and like looks like, and they, yeah, like they can relate to another level where it's like maybe someone who hasn't, they're more like fake. Like you can kind of tell, like, okay, like, yes, you're cool, but like you don't really understand like what the struggle can feel like. And then someone like you like comes off so genuine because you actually have went through so much stuff that you know what it's like. That's a really great thing to like that is so
yeah.
yeah. So, do you still, I guess, kind of now, obviously, COVID sucks and that it just, I'm so sorry that happened to you. In a silver lining, do you think that it's given you time to really kind of focus back on yourself and what you would like to put out into the world and kind of refocus what your next steps in life are? Or do you feel like you're obviously like we're always still figuring it out? Like, this is not like, tell us your like, what's your next step? But do you feel like it helped you kind of refocus on like who you are and like what your message is and kind of give you more like you time?
Yeah. Actually, so let's see. When COVID first started happening, I used to go to the gym, and now I don't go to the gym. I go running, and that was like one super huge positive thing that initially came out of this because I spend so much more time in the sunshine, and that is very helpful for me. So that was one thing that I really appreciated. Also, during COVID, we moved.
Mm.
Initially, we had like a much smaller apartment and we had really loud upstairs neighbors. And because of COVID, like we were all home all the time, it became unlivable. So we
Oh.
ended up moving and we have like, I'm much happier where we are now. So that's another great thing that ultimately came out of
Yeah.
COVID. And I took a bunch of classes. Like if you go on LinkedIn, you can do like a 30-day trial and you can take a bunch of classes. So I did a bunch of free classes on media management and advertising and kind of took some time to figure out what I wanted to do. I started my own LLC
Oh.
and yeah, I'm just trying to still completely figure out what I'm doing, but I do know my direction.
Yeah, like you have a vision of like things you want to accomplish. That's awesome.
Yes.
What is your LLC or if you can talk about it at all?
It's just BZD LLC. I'm not completely sure what exactly I'm going to do with it yet, but I do know that it's necessary for whatever it is that I feel like I'm going to do. I'm definitely just going to keep trying to like brand myself and like, I guess just like be a good person and like give myself more knowledge, and hopefully I can like run some more social media pages and just like keep growing, and hopefully it will turn into something.
Yeah, I mean, you already have something obviously going for you. Like, you don't just have followers to the amount you have if you don't have something that's going well. Um, what are some, okay, so social media has changed so much and Instagram has changed so much. And I mean, for being like modeling and inked modeled as we're called, how did you start getting tattoos? How did you know you like wanted to be branded maybe as a model? And then how do you navigate the ever-changing Instagram?
Yeah, okay. So I have always loved tattoos. Like my dad was a firefighter when I was younger, and I like vividly remember sitting in the fire department when he'd be like in his meetings and stuff, and I would like draw tattoos. They were not good by any means, but I was so small. And then I'd be like, look at these tattoos that I drew.
Oh,
But
that's so cute.
I always knew I wanted that. And I don't know. It's just, I always thought about it. As soon as I was old enough, I was like, all right, I'm ready to start this. And there's just something, I feel like maybe especially having like issues like with my body image, like I always wanted to express myself through like beautiful art. Like I want someone to look at me, whether they accept me or not, but like be able to kind of tell like the person I am on the inside, on my outside.
Yes, girl,
So
yes.
so that is why I always wanted tattoos. And ultimately, Instagram is just crazy. I had no idea that it was going to be what it is. Like, I had absolutely no idea that things like this could even happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of started, and it just grew and grew and grew. And as it was growing, I was like learning so much more. And I really love photography. I didn't know anything about photography. So then, as I started learning about cameras and learning about photo editing, that's something that I completely fell in love with. And it just all snowballed into this crazy, huge thing. It just blows my mind, to be completely honest with you. But I love it so much. I feel like I put so much into my Instagram because it's it just evokes like so much emotion, like all
Yeah.
these people. It's like it's the craziest thing, but it does help me feel like there's purpose. Like it gives
Yeah.
me like some type of purpose, and that's really helpful for me. So that's kind of how everything just started. And now, I mean, I can't imagine it not being like this. And even when I think about what I'll do with my future, I mean, I'll surely use my Instagram as a platform for whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, and on Instagram itself, I mean, it's nuts. It's always changing.
It's
Who knows like what you're supposed to do ever. But I feel like as long as you keep your content consistent and quality, regardless of how things are going, like just don't stop. Just keep doing it, keep working on it, keep like the quality content, never post anything like just to post it for no reason, but like still have some type of positivity if possible. I feel like Instagram likes that. And yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. I really like what you said that having the art on you was like an empowerment. Like, okay, this is like beautiful art. Because I had something similar. I grew up around tattoos as well. Like my family was biker family. Like we were always like around bikers and we had our own club and everyone was tattooed all different sizes and shapes and different kind of arts. So I felt like when I got as also too having isn't it so crazy? We are both two people who know nothing about each other's story. We both have a different type, but an eating disorder. We both feel type of way about our body. We both get tattoos to like empower ourselves in that way. Like my art tells my story, as I'm sure that's, what you said. It's just so crazy how people could be similar but so different. And I think that's so cool. When you talk to people, you really learn like, wow, like we aren't really alone in this big giant world. So I think that's so cool that you said that, because I'm like, wow, that's how I feel. Like my art is like, I want someone to see beautiful art.
Yes,
Really
yes.
boring. Do you think that, like, okay, so kind of set it up. Do you have like a system you do for every post, or like a video, or now that TikTok's big, I know you're into that as well. How do you navigate, like, okay, like what am I posting today? Do you have like reasons behind each post, or like a theme you do? Kind of bring us through like maybe more nitty-gritty stuff.
So I feel like once I honed in on my editing style, typically, as long as I edit the same way and I pop the same colors and do similar things, like almost regardless of when and where the photo is, it kind of has a similar tone. So it kind of
Okay.
makes everything go together. I feel like that's kind of,
Blend well.
yeah, just like other photography pages, like they have their own style. So it's like it doesn't matter what event it is they post, like it looks like it's supposed to be like that because like your style is I mean it's so important for like your page in every
Yeah.
single way. But I personally have I use Planoly,
Okay.
and I will prep what posts I'm going to do for like what day so that I can see everything all put together and make sure it looks cohesive. And that way I can kind of like try to plan out how I'm going to do my captions. Because if I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, time to decide what I'm going to say, it's never really good.
See, that's
So I
that's
do
interesting.
appreciate that.
I think like that's really smart, like planning it out, knowing like, okay, this, and then the aesthetic of the Instagram is really important. People like don't think it is, and I think I struggled with that. Like I just had random like really nice photos I thought, but it wasn't blended well. So when you go to someone's profile, you're like, oh, but when you go to your profile, it like really pops. Like you're right, your colors pop. So I do see what you're saying, like the theme of it all blends really nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. Do you feel like, so then how did you navigate TikTok? 'Cause for me, I'm like, do I do TikTok? Do I not do TikTok? How did you decide, like, okay, I'm gonna do it? And then how do you, are those videos hard to make? Do you have to like really plan those out?
So I don't know about TikTok yet. I kind of just like started actually being active on TikTok, but it's because my brother-in-law
Hmm.
made a TikTok and he kind of like just started getting into the social media world in general. And he had like a bunch of his posts go viral. So then he was like talking to me about like my growth on Instagram. And I was kind of talking to him about his growth on TikTok. And in my opinion, I'm just like, well, I'm going to just start posting and I'll just see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So it was more just like, I'm gonna try it and like, let's just see where it goes.
Yeah, and I know it's like big and a lot of people are like using it, so I feel like it's good to just be a part of it, even if it's not like my necessarily cup of tea.
Hmm. Okay.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's good to say, like, especially being in the line of like social media and influencers and modeling and all the creatives, I think social media is just so important. You're right that like even if you're just trying, it's good just to be able to say like if someone asks you, you're like, "Oh yeah, I do have it, but maybe I mostly post here."
Yes.
Oh, that's good advice just for anyone. Like I feel like I'm like, oh my God, like do I do it? Do I not do it? So I like put like two posts and they do fairly okay, but I don't know, like going viral, it seems like how do those people go viral?
Yeah, I have a tendency to just be like, what's the worst that could happen? I always think about that. And if the worst that could happen is not so bad, then might as well give it a shot.
Yeah, see that's awesome. That's true. Like yeah, like it doesn't having to just try it and if whatever happens is better than not ever trying it at all.
Yes.
That's awesome. And then I also know you work with a lot of brands. So how is it to work with brands? Do they reach out to you? Do you reach out to them? How do you make those connections?
It can go either way. I feel like ultimately people look for like nichey type things. So I end up working with a lot of like body jewelry companies, a lot of plug companies, and then kind of like tattoo style clothing or athletic style clothing. I mean, I guess you would just assume that like my audience is coming to my page for something. So if someone can relate with something that I'm posting, then they know that hopefully my audience would like their products.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Because yeah, I feel like mm, it's like safe to assume, yeah, they're either following you one for either your positive message, to see your tattoos, to see how your tattoos grow, to see your style. Yeah, that's a good point. How was it
Yeah.
when you first got like when a first brand ever reached out to you? How was that feeling? Like, was it like, oh shit, like I made it, like maybe I'm doing something right, or was it kind of scary, or what was the kind of emotions there?
So scary. I'm surely the type of like I never want to let anybody down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, someone wants to send me something. Oh my goodness. So for me, like I'm just like, okay, well, maybe it will be okay.
Nice. That's fun. I feel like that's like a true emotion too. It's not like, oh yeah, like I just was like cool with it because I feel like it is kind of scary because you're like, you're right. Like, what post am I gonna do for them? They're like relying on a really good post. I want to make sure my audience tries to go look, like go see if they want anything from this company. So I think it's like, yeah, like scary because there's like a stress to it as well.
Yes, definitely. Now I just make sure I'm like very upfront with people. Like if I know it's going to take me a couple of weeks to get something, like I'll always like make sure I share like a timeline. I always make sure that I'm like, you see the other things that I do, like that's exactly what you should expect. Just make sure that everyone knows exactly what to expect.
Yeah, that's good. And then do you also like, do you vet the brands? Like, do you actually work with brands that you would like purchase from, or are you open to just kind of like whoever wants to work with you? Because it's kind of then like it's like a flattering aspect.
So I will typically say no if it's something that I wouldn't use or wear or etc. like in my daily life.
Yeah.
But most people that reach out fit into my niche.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's just like I feel like that's interesting because you think sometimes you see like for instance like a Kardashian, right? And they're just gonna promote whatever the fuck pays them. But that's cool. Like you're promoting things that you'll use or you'll wear and etc. That's cool.
Yes.
And then obviously I can see you have your septum pierced. How was it to get piercings? Was it a different experience than getting tattoos?
Yeah, I'm so scared of piercings. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I'll go in for like a 7 hour tattoo and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But then, like, just thinking about like getting my ear pierced or something, I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I'm so scared.
And then you said you have plugs too, so how was it to like stretch your ears and was it like what made you want to do that?
Horrible. So bad. Honestly, I was in high school and being in like this small town in Wisconsin, most of the people in the school are like farmers, or you have like your preppy type people, your jock type people. And then there was the very, very small handful of people that like would be like wanting to get tattoos or had like piercings or had plugs. And I always would see people with plugs and I wanted that so bad. So I started stretching my ears and did it so badly, so unhealthily. Like my ears are so tiny and if your ears don't want to stretch, like surely don't do it.
Yeah.
Like we'll pass a certain point and I was like, that's totally fine, like do it. But
You
I
need to
sure
do it
like
when
I
we're
did
young.
damage. Yeah, I did damage to them, but I'm never gonna make them bigger than what they are now, and I've accepted that like they're a little bit like damaged, but I love my plugs how they are, so I'm happy with them.
Oh, nice. I feel like it's also like your own personal story. Like, I did this, owning it now.
Yeah, it's really weird because like I'll feel like such a mom. Like people will be like, "Oh, I'm gonna stretch my ears," and I'm like, "Listen to your body. If they're not ready, like just don't do it yet. Like wait it out. Like you don't want to hurt your ears."
Yeah, but that's also really good advice. Like, people now know, like, hey, if you're listening, don't stretch your ears if they're not ready yet.
Yeah, I definitely. I blew my ears out so many times that like I can't even wear all the cutest plugs because I have to get plugs that are like thicker. Otherwise, just because of unhealthily like stretching them, like I can't wear ones that are too skinny.
Oh, interesting. It's interesting. Like, yeah, like just a thing that seems so easy because you see a lot of people have plugs. It's not that way. And it's just not like you instantly stretch your ear and boop, gonna put in some jewelry.
Yeah, I know some people can do it, but I'm like, dang, not me.
Wasn't that person. Oh. And then also too, I know you have a lot of tattoos, and I do a tattoo segment, so we will have to, if you would love to come back, do a only tattoo episode where we talk about tattoos. I'm sure the audience will love to have you back.
Definitely.
Because how many do you have in total?
Honestly, I couldn't
You
tell
don't
you.
know.
It's so hard to even like try to think about it. I've tried so many times to count, but then I'll be like, my sleeve, I started here, and then like I got all these little pieces, and then I put it together. So like I think
Is
that's
it
one. I don't really know. But then I
That's
have like so many random like little things, like so many are meaningful or like remind me of like some specific time. But then I have like a lip tattoo and like just like these random like little things that I'll be like, oh yeah, like I don't even realize that's there
That's
anymore.
fair, yeah. That's a good point because some people think that if it's a sleeve, it is just counts as one. But then some people think because there's all the intricacies that were added later to make it a full sleeve that it could count as more. So that is a very debatable question.
Yes.
Because I feel like right now I count mine as one because it's all Alice in One. It's like it's just an Alice in Wonderland sleeve. I mean, it's not finished yet, but I feel like, well, there's all these different characters, so are each character count? So it is interesting.
Yep.
That's a good debate. We should like in the comments, guys, tell us what you think. But that's cool though. That's cool. Do you think, okay, so this is maybe like a personal feminine question. Do you think, obviously you said you were married, and so I'm sure it's a different aspect than like just dating somebody, but do you think because of like Instagram and being a model and all that, is your partner really supportive towards that, or was it kind of weird at first because other guys comment on your stuff?
Yeah. I think at first it's kind of weird. Um, However, there was a lot of times where I was going to quit, like throughout like my Instagram journey. There's been so many times that I was like, maybe this just is not for me. And my husband is the one who was like, no, like there's so
Oh,
much potential. Like, don't stop. Like something good is gonna happen. You just have to keep at it. But he's so understanding. I think it really just depends on like you and your partner and like how
partner.
you feel about things because my husband does music, so he's a musician. I've
Oh,
like
that's
kind of
cool.
I was on the other side of things probably for a long time, always being the person and be like, oh well, what about all these people that support your music? But really it's just as long as
Wow.
like we talk about things all the time, so it's like
It's not
it's
even
fine.
a big issue. Oh, that's cool. I mean, that's super funny too to be like, well, the fans of your music, and then now you're like, hey, no, I have my own fans. That's actually really funny. Like, I mean, obviously you're right. It just depends on the relationship of people, but that is really cool that your husband is so supportive towards it. Where like maybe not that other people's partners might not be as supportive, but maybe it's just not like a care to them. But your husband like took the time to be like, no, like keep at it. There's something here. Like that's a really awesome.
Yes, granted, it's just like always natural to question things. I suppose there are like times where he'll be like feeling weird about something and then he'll bring it up or he won't, and then we'll talk about it. So
Yeah.
we're just both like weirdos, so
Oh,
it's
hey.
always fine.
The weirdos will always find their weirdo, right? That's awesome though. And that's cool too that you can kind of understand that like you both can kind of understand the life because you said that he's a musician, so I'm sure like they tour and etc. So it's always you're honest. I think that's what it comes down to. Like you said, you just have those conversations. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So then obviously we know that we can find you on Instagram and you're always there and posting and you have a lot of exciting things in your future coming. And then I also know that you have your dog, which is the precious thing ever. How long? I always like this because I just love animals and dogs are the greatest. How long have you had your dog? How is it to have a, because it's a pit bull, correct?
Yeah, she is. Look at
How
her,
is,
she's sleeping.
yeah. Oh, is that her in the back? Oh my God, so cute. How long have you had her? And then also, was it hard to like train her because she is pit, and of course, like there's always that fear that they'll be aggressive. So tell us about your little pit bull experience.
Yes, so I always wanted a pit bull. I feel like it's so natural for people with tattoos that have like an alternative style that ultimately like get judged like based off what we look like. I just naturally like gravitate towards like wanting a pit bull because they deal with so many of the same things. Like
Oh,
she
that's a
gets
good
judged all the
point.
time. Yeah, like
Really good point.
people will see us like walking down the sidewalk and will cross the street so that they don't have to walk by us. It's so crazy. But she's the sweetest little thing. I've had her, she turns 9 this month.
Oh, happy
Um,
birthday.
yeah, I got her when I was 20.
Oh wow, so you've had her a long
And
time.
yep. And I found her on Craigslist. And I think back to like when I'm 20, I'm like, I was an adult, but I was like, what in the world was I thinking? Like, I
Yep.
found her on
How's that work?
Craigslist and I drove like an hour and a half to go get her. And it was so shady. Like, it was so weird. We met like in this parking lot and she had never had a collar on, never had a leash on. She never had a name. She had two types of worms. She had an ear infection. She had scars and scabs all over her entire body. Like she was very obviously abused. They didn't tell me anything except that her and her brother like had gotten into a fight, so they had to get rid of her. Like whoever took the boy dog couldn't keep her because they were like fighting.
Mm,
But I also don't necessarily know that that's what happened.
yeah.
And then when I paid for her, like I handed him the money and he gave some of it back to me and he was like, just take her. It was the craziest thing, like the craziest thing.
Oh,
So she's just a very special little thing. She's so anxious. Like she's exactly myself in a
yeah.
dog.
So how like crazy of an experience, but also how magical because she found you and like you're the best owner.
Yeah, it was definitely meant to be. She helped me
Mm.
learn so many things about what it means to have to take care of something.
Yeah, and I'm sure too, like going through your own personal experiences, and then obviously she experienced trauma to like have each other, like, oh, my heart.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
that's cool too that you were able to get her at a time like that and nurture her back to life too.
Yes.
Empowering as well, like knowing like what anxiety is and then seeing it in your dog, you're like, wait, like I got this.
Yes, definitely. She always reminds me that like I have to be strong because I have to take it. Like I don't have any kids or anything, and I don't plan on doing anything like that for a really long time.
Yeah,
So it is,
she's your kid.
it's nice. Yeah, it feels good to know that like she needs me. So that's another, or anything that can give me some purpose. is a good thing.
Yeah, that's so sweet. And I just always I had to ask because I see her all the time on your page and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's the cutest thing. And like you always wonder like obviously dogs are like great to have and the emotions people have it like everyone loves their dog, but it's special when you hear a story like that, how even more special she is.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Most definitely.
Yeah, and I do want to just kind of wrap to like you just said that people judge you by your tattoos and what you look like, and then they judge a pit bull because you know everyone assumes pit bulls are aggressive. That is so important, I think, to bring up because yeah, like it's so crazy to me. I'm like this Disney girl and I have all these tattoos, but then people look at me like I'm some slum rebel girl. I'm like, I like freaking have an Alice in Wonderland tattoo. Like I'm not aggressive. Like, or because I listen to rock music and I go to yeah, like you're right. People just judge you right away. And slowly that's starting to kind of become normal, like tattoos in normal world, but it's still a stigma, I feel like. How do you feel because like you said you went through all the bullying when you were younger and now you said recently you've like actually like okay, I own who I am. I'm like confident and like empowered of who I am. How was that like for you? Cuz like you think like being bullied when you were younger and then now people judging you maybe have would change your perspective, but do you think because you now own who you are and the tattoos make you have that confidence that it doesn't even phase you?
Yeah. So, when I still lived in Wisconsin and I started getting tattoos, I dealt with that more. Like when I would go to the grocery store, older people, especially that like didn't necessarily grow up seeing things like this, would, yeah, they'd like point at me or turn their, like turn their heads and then like touch their part, like their other, and then
Yep.
they would all look at me.
Yep.
And that was really difficult. I always felt really weird. But living in California for so many years, I don't feel like, I mean, that's part of the reason why I love being here so much. Like, nobody ever looks at me like that, like,
Mhm.
ever.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that about being out here. And I'm sure back home, it's probably not so bad, but also now, like, if that were to happen, I would probably be like, oh, hello. Like, I wouldn't just be like, oh, no.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I feel the same way. Like growing up, it was not as like common, and then I moved to California, and it was like this freeing experience because I didn't have as many in New Jersey, but then I started becoming like more who I am in California. And you're right, it's like a freedom of like, yes, this is like who I am. It's like I'm not hiding behind my like plain body. I'm like, oh, like I love my tattoos. Like this is who I am. So I think that that's a good point. Like California, it's so free and more accepting, I guess, to say.
Yes.
But you're
Yes,
right now. If I,
definitely.
that's a good point too, because it's like now if you went home to Wisconsin, it's like, fuck, I don't give a shit. Like talk all you want. Like I have beautiful artwork.
Yep.
So that's cool. It's kind of like a full circle, like of like transition of life too. And it's crazy, like the maturity, of course, of just growing up, but also just to like recognize, like, wow, like look how far I've come.
Yes.
Awesome. Is there any like other things you have coming up you'd like to promote or special brands you work with that you'd like to promote or any like last parting words or advice you'd like to give?
Nothing in particular as far as like what's to come because I'm not really sure what's to come. I'm sure it will be something, just
Yeah,
not sure what yet.
and that's
But
okay.
ultimately, yeah, I mean, ultimately, um, all I think I have to say is really everything you do, it doesn't matter as long as you show love, if you love yourself, if you love other people, as long as you're spreading a positive message. If you see something wrong happening, like do your best to stop it. If you're struggling, like it's completely okay, it's completely normal, and things are going to get better.
Awesome. I mean, totally true. Like so true. Thank you so much for coming on and like taking time to come on the podcast and share your story and your messages. I'm so appreciative. I love following you on Instagram. So guys, you must follow her. And also on TikTok too. Is there any other platforms besides Instagram and TikTok?
No, not right now.
Those two. And then anyone who is, I'm gonna post it and tag it all up and down the video. But for people that are listening, if you just want to say your Instagram and where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at BZB, BZ.B, and TikTok, BZBs.
Nice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, BZ, again. And we for sure have to have you come back for tattoo stories because we would love to
Yeah,
hear your stories. And thank you so much again. And I hope you have a great day.
you too. Thank you so much.
Of course. Well, bye, guys. Have a magical day.